Chapter 7. Body Image. I can only be happy if I accept what I look like from this day onwards. Those were the words of a young woman who attended one of my I Love Me workshops. She was talking about the pressure many young women feel under to be slim, have clear skin, and have small hips. She said, the pressure bred dissatisfaction. Accepting what I look like is my only hope, she explained. I'm never going to be like that, so there's no point in trying. If I try, I'm only going to be even unhappier with the way I look. Her words were met with nods of support from other workshop participants. One of them tried to encourage her by saying that she was beautiful, and she was. But you missed my point, she replied. I need to not care whether I'm pretty or not. I want to like myself just as I am. Does that sound familiar? It's something we'd all love, to like ourselves, not even love ourselves, just as we are. We'd be free. How do you do it? How do you get there when the world tells you different? I'm fat, another woman said, making an open arm gesture with one finger of each hand pointing at her waist. Everyone knows that's not pretty. Someone else said, you need to find what is pretty about yourself. The woman get emotional at that point. For her, it just didn't feel possible to find something about herself that was pretty. This is such a common feeling. I meet lots of people who would be unable to find anything they liked about themselves. From this perspective, learning to love yourself feels like having a mountain to climb. But like all mountains, it starts with small steps. And in this chapter, I'd like to offer you some small steps that might help change how you feel about body image. The vast majority of women have dieted. A UK study estimated at 87% of the female population. I have 3 sisters. Each of them and my mum has dieted on numerous occasions. When quizzed, most women say it's to be slim and to increase their self-confidence and self-esteem. That's the answer that my mum gives too. Body image is in fact the number one major shamer. Whether it's because of weight, shape, size, tummy, breasts, penis size in men, body hair, going bald, skin blemishes, or something else, most people feel conscious and insecure. And they all want to change at least one part of their body. It might come as a little bit of a surprise to know that shame about body image plays a role in eating disorders. In a 2014 study, researchers compared 46 people with an eating disorder with 50 healthy participants and another 22 people who had recovered from an eating disorder. Those with the eating disorders were found to have the highest levels of shame. Shame was also higher in those who had recovered from the eating disorders, which might suggest that whatever way they'd managed to recover, they hadn't dealt with the issues of shame. It's the same reason why many people yo-yo diet. While a diet might help us to lose weight, if it doesn't deal with the issues of shame and self-worth, there's always a chance that we'll gain weight again. Learning self-love involves learning to be comfortable with ourselves, just as we are. It doesn't mean we won't ever want to change. Change is natural. Self-love, in fact, usually does inspire positive, healthy change. My partner, Elizabeth Caproni, is an actress and filmmaker. She knows all too well the pressures on women. She entered a competition to promote positive body image as part of a campaign called Body Gossip. The brainchild of actress and puppeteer Ruth Rogers. Elizabeth's short monologue/poem is about the transition from not enough through had enough to I am enough. It's about being comfortable with yourself. It was one of the winners and was performed by celebrities in front of an audience around the UK, including one containing the Duchess of Cornwall, the wife of Prince Charles. You can find a recital performed by UK celebrities on YouTube. Although most of this chapter so far has been about women, men experience similar pressures. It's just not as obvious or talked about. Highly toned models are now commonplace in male advertisements, and between the 1970s and 2000, the average Playgirl centerfold male gained 26 pounds, 12 kilograms of muscle, and lost about 11 pounds, 5 kilograms of fat. Just as women and young girls are dieting, a growing number of men and young boys have been taking action in the opposite direction. In 2014, the UK Home Office reported that steroid use is now so widespread that they estimate around 60,000 people in the UK inject themselves with steroids each year. Research teaches us that a large number of teenage boys are taking steroids because they think they're puny. Just as women compare themselves to ideal images in magazines, online and in the media, so boys do the same, and as a result, they feel under pressure to be more muscular. Yet again, what lies behind this for both girls and boys is the pressure to be what they think is attractive so they can connect and belong. They get the impression that thin and pretty for girls and toned and muscular for boys are normal and what everyone prefers to look at. If they attained the desired shape, they'll be liked, they'll be accepted, and ultimately they'll feel that they're enough. In the meantime, they can become stressed about changing their body image to fit in the norm to the point where they end up ignoring what's good about themselves and only seeing what they think are faults. I know what it's like from when I was a teenager. In the early to mid-80s, hair was a big thing for boys. The idols when I was a teenager were Morten Harket from the Swedish band Aha and Jason Donovan, who at the time was an actor in the Australian soap Neighbours, alongside Kylie Minogue. Both had well-groomed hair that was parted at the front and had 3 or 4 inches of length at the back, kind of like a mullet, only the hair was straight. I spent hours trying to get my hair to look like that. When it wouldn't just sit right, I felt embarrassed. In the front, if the front didn't sit up as it was supposed to, I would even walk around all day at school with my head down to reduce the risk of people seeing it, or even avoid eye contact in the hope that people wouldn't notice me. I could only see what was right and completely missed everything that was. Nowadays, we call this kind of thing body dysmorphia, though it usually relates to body size and shape, not hair. Although the pressures are different now from how they were in the 80s, the issue is the same. Young boys and men, just like young girls and women, attach their self-worth to their body image and believe that if they don't look a certain way, people won't like, love, be attracted, or accept them. As a man, I can also tell you that we live with another, less obvious pressure. We need to appear strong, not just in the muscle department, but emotionally. We need to man up whenever the situation calls for it. This pressure leads to all sorts of bravado behaviour. If we didn't do it, we'd be comparing penis sizes instead. The truth is, we feel weak some of the time. For some men, it's a lot of the time. We feel weak about a lot of things. We get scared, but we feel that we're not supposed to. We sometimes feel bad about our inability to provide. We sometimes feel inferior in relation to our sexual performance, especially if we know our wife or partner has been with other men before us. That's a big one for a lot of men, if you pardon the pun. We also worry that we don't look toned or groomed enough, especially when we compare ourselves with other men, and learn that women like toned, well-groomed men. We also get emotional, and we know that that's not allowed. At the risk of shattering the illusion some women have that men are naturally strong, a lot of men cry from time to time. We'd never admit it, though not to women, and definitely not to another man. Of course, being a real man, I'm not talking about myself here. Just other men I've read about, of course. I don't know any men who, on a first date, will say, I had such a good cry last night. Wow, it was good. Our fear is that the next thing we'll hear is whoosh. That is a whoosh sound, and the distant click of that date's heels getting into a cab. But emotions are as natural for men as they are for women. Some men suppress theirs, but that has its consequences. Either they stay quiet and live a life feeling that part of them is dead or dying, or the emotion bursts out from time to time, sometimes a display of erratic or stupid behaviour, or sometimes in the form of bullying, abusive behaviour. The aggression helps keep the emotion down. All in all, there's a stereotype that we feel that we need to live up to. It's someone who is strong, toned, well-groomed, in control of his emotions, sexually dynamic, and a good breadwinner. For men, part of self-love is accepting ourselves as we are completely, not just the way that we look. That doesn't mean we won't ever want to change. In fact, self-love usually does inspire creative change, which leads to diet. Diets help people to look different, and many people do feel much better about their new image. But if we imagine that will only be enough when we lose X pounds or reach a size Y, we're saying that we're not good enough now. And that's where the problem lies. As long as we're saying we're not good enough now, every action we take further compounds the idea that we're not enough. So when we're on a diet, although there will be weeks when the pounds drop off through sheer determination, the weight of the belief that we're not enough is likely to see them put it back on again. Each time there's progress, there's a piece of elastic pulling us back, an irresistible urge to eat cake, the thought of just having a takeaway this one last time, or even finding ourselves in the company of people who prefer to see us eating the way that we always did. They're used to us like that after all. If we do research our ideal weight because it was motivated by a lack of self-love, the new weight doesn't solve the problem. The sentiment of not enough usually runs so deep that a change in appearance is only a temporary sticking plaster that washes off the first time we step into the shower. To make weight loss stick, we need to rewire our brain with I am enough now. Many women resist working on self-love. However, because they fear that if they love themselves, they won't care anymore about what other people think and will just let their body go to pot. This comes up as a genuine concern for most women at the I Love Me events. But here's the thing. Self-love won't stop you dieting. You won't suddenly become so satisfied with your body that you won't care what anyone thinks and will just gorge yourself on cakes and cheese. It could happen, but that's more likely to be a short-term effect on the state of I've had enough. As you move to I am enough, it's actually far more likely that you will diet, but you'll do it for different reasons. You'll do it because you're motivated to make healthy choices. It's the same, but it's completely different. Here are 4 steps that can help you feel better about your body image and accept yourself as you are. Step 1. Decide to get there. Decide that you are going to learn to like yourself as you are. That decision doesn't take you there right away. You're not deluding yourself. It just gives you a direction to head in. It doesn't mean that you want to stay as you are. That can be a stumbling block for most people, as you've already seen. If I accept myself as I am, then I won't lose weight, for instance. That's the belief. And such is the desire to lose weight that you are prevented from accepting yourself. But acceptance actually causes spontaneous change. This is what I call the acceptance paradox. The acceptance paradox is that once acceptance arrives, whatever you accept begins to change. Naturally, complete acceptance produces spontaneous change. It often leads to a spontaneous desire to be healthy or to engage in behaviour that makes you happier. It also means that any change will originate from a state of enough rather than not enough. Step 2. Understand that opinions are subjective. We all live under a lot of pressure to conform to the latest styles to force our body to become thinner and not show any visible signs of aging, to be attractive in short. However, opinions really are subjective and they change. Opinions about what is attractive are more changeable than the Scottish weather. Right up until the 20th century, an ideal woman was plump. You can tell by looking at the most common shape in the paintings of nude or almost nude women painted in the 18th and 19th centuries. Plump was attractive. Plump was sexy. A plump woman would feel good about herself. She could feel she could walk down the street with her head held high, knowing that male heads would turn everywhere she walked. But if that woman lived today, she could be well depressed. She would almost certainly be self-conscious about her weight. She would look at women, especially in magazines and in online advertising, who are considered attractive, and she would compare them to herself and feel ugly. Her head wouldn't be quite as high as she walked down the street. Maybe she'd wear trousers instead of a skirt because she felt ashamed to show her legs. In the 1920s, the vital statistics of the average Miss America winner were 32, 25, 35. In the 1930s, they were 34, 25, 35, an average of 2 inches larger bust. The stats were 35, 25, 35, larger busted again in the 1940s. A 1920s winner wouldn't even have made the finals in the 1940s. In the 1950s, bust and hip size became larger and the waist size shrank. The average stats were 36, 26. The average stats were 36, 23, 36. Had the female size changed in the short span of time? Evolution is not quite so fast. What changed was opinion, strongly influenced by fashion and advertising and by the current leading ladies in the movie. The 20s view of the ideal woman was influenced by flapper fashion, which incidentally was the result of first mass-market magazines that used photographs of models rather than hand-drawn images. Models were chosen so the clothes would look as though they were on coat hangers. Wind the clock forward to the 1950s and Marilyn Monroe was a big star. Consequently, most Miss America winners then were around the same size as she was. Since the 1990s, the popular beauty ideal has been the waif model, heroin chic. Some sociologists believe this has played a significant role in the large increase in eating disorders in young girls and women. And to top it all off, most advertising images nowadays are airbrushed. So not only do you have to be slim, but you have to have unblemished skin, and be free of cellulite too. The trouble with this is that we all suffer by comparison. Research clearly shows that when women look at images of other women in adverts and in the media, it makes them feel dissatisfied with their own body and lowers their self-esteem. For instance, in a 2009 study, 299 French and Italian girls of an average age of 20 were shown idealized images of seemingly beautiful women in magazines and were found to be dissatisfied with their own bodies afterwards. Hundreds of similar studies offer the same conclusion. And where you live matters too. In some countries, Mauritania, for example, large women are celebrated as beautiful. Women there are actually encouraged to put on weight. If a size 0 model lived there, she might be thought to be at least attractive person in the village. Our minds are swayed on a daily basis regarding what is attractive. And in a 2014 study, some people were shown images of plus-size models and others images of underweight models for only 1 minute. They were then shown images of women of different sizes. Those who had viewed the plus-size models found a BMI of 18.4 the most attractive, but those who were shown the underweight models preferred a BMI of 16.9. The point isn't so much the actual BMI, but the difference in the BMIs that were found to be attractive. What we are shown in newspapers and magazines, on billboards, online, conditions us to view certain sizes and looks as beautiful and others as not. The same person might be pretty 1 week, ugly the next week, and back to pretty again, all depending on what we've seen in the media during that span of time. We might think that we're in control of our minds, but they are swayed far more than we think. Coming to the realization that opinions are subjective is important. It frees us from linking self-worth to body image. Self-love gym. As an exercise, write a few paragraphs as if you were teaching someone else that opinions are subjective and change. Write a page if you feel like it. It's up to you. Do whatever it takes to get it clearer in your mind. To make a start, why not reread the section above, highlight the pieces that resonate most with you, and take some notes. You can even do some of your own research online if you feel moved to. With your notes to hand, write as if you were making a case. You might even find it helps to talk over the subject with a friend. I often use exercises like these. They are very powerful. When you teach someone else what you've learned, it brings you new insights and a richer understanding of the subject. Step 3. Allow yourself to be a square peg in a round hole. So now you know that opinions are subjective and change. You don't need to try to be like everyone else. Opting to be authentic as yourself, which might be different from others in some ways, can be a statement that you feel that you're enough. Celebrate your uniqueness. Step 4. Focus on what you like about yourself. A girl who attended one of my workshops shared this exercise with me. It was taught to Japanese women with low self-esteem and massively improved it. moving many of the women all the way from low self-esteem to healthy self-esteem. It's also been shown to be effective in research studies. Here's a summary of the 4 steps to feeling better about your body image. 1. Decide to get there. 2. Understand that opinions are subjective to change. 3. Allow yourself to be a square peg in a round hole. And 4. Focus on what you like about yourself. As with many of the exercises in this book, the work is like going to the physical gym. The biggest breakthroughs come when you're consistent. With body image, that means going over your responses to the questions on a few different occasions and even adding something new each time you do. Some of you will need to do more reps of the exercise than others. You might have to do an exercise 3 times a week or two times a week to see some of the real benefits. But just like the physical gym, it's always worth putting the work in. Self-love gym. Write down how comparing yourself to others has affected and is affecting now your happiness, health, and feelings of self-worth. Next, write down how your life could be different if you stopped comparing yourself to others and instead began to accept yourself as you are. For example, if comparing yourself to others is making you feel insecure, how do you think you would feel if you stopped making that comparison? Would you feel more secure? How would that affect your relationships, your career, your health, your finances, etc.? Make a decision to be your unique self. Try it for a day. Wear what you want to wear. Speak your mind. Be yourself as a living affirmation that you are enough. Choose 3 parts of your body that you like. Maybe it's your hair, or perhaps it's your feet, or something in between. Maybe it's your voice, or your eyes, or your skin. Focus on these 3 parts every day for the next week. You might feel like accentuating them, or you might just allow yourself to reflect on why you like them. Whatever you choose to do, keep doing it. It's the consistency of focusing on these body parts that makes the exercise so powerful. In summary, most of us feel unhappy about some aspect of our body image, whether it's our weight, shape, skin, cellulite, nose, teeth, hair, breast size, hip size, penis size. What drives this is the unconscious belief that we need to be better, more attractive, or to be accepted. But opinions on what is perfect are subject and they change. In fact, an ideal body shape 100 years ago would be considered overweight today, and an overweight person in some countries today would be considered slim in another. There are 4 powerful steps that you can take to feel better about your body image and accept yourself just as you are. Some people face a dilemma when it comes to accepting themselves as they are. They want to change, and they don't want to accept themselves. But accepting yourself is an important part of the self-love. This is where the acceptance paradox comes in. Once acceptance arrives, whatever you accept begins to change. Self-acceptance usually gives birth to inspired, creative change, and it does so from an I am enough instead of not enough.